Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for tuning in with me today. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys all of the eyeshadow palettes that I own that do give me a smoky glam vibe. Some of these I love reaching for when I'm invited to a party, when I'm going out, and as you may know, 2024 is coming to an end very soon. I mean, I am so ready to say goodbye to 2024, and I wanted to share with you some palettes that will just make you look like really sparkly, really just smoky and just really stunning. I really made sure not to solely include like black, white and gray tone palettes, but I mean, there are quite a few in today's video because I feel like, when it comes to New Year's Eve, the color that I'm immediately thinking of is silver. Anything that sparkles, anything that glitters. I also tried to put in some fun eyeshadow palettes that may inspire you to do something a little bit different. And of course, I'm going to be trying my best to link all of the palettes that I can link in my description box down below. Now, some of them are indie brands, most of them honestly are indie brands, and I can't really link them through my partner over at Shop My Shelf. But if I can link something, I will. And I also tried for today to not solely include palettes. I also have some one and done eyeshadows. I even have like some liquid shadows here. So I'm going to be talking about these at the end of the video. So we're going to be jumping into the palettes first. I know not everyone is up for an eyeshadow palette, especially if you don't have time and you just want to like get ready quickly. I always take my time, especially for New Year's Eve. I honestly really like New Year's Eve. I feel like a lot of people don't really love it, but I just love like the glam looks that you can create for that specific day. So if you do end up enjoying this video, why not give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also ring the bell in order to get notified for more videos. But I will say today is my last video for this year. I'm not going to be posting anything else. Next year, I'm going to be starting off the year with my best of, worst of, and also my yearly eyeshadow palette ranking. I kind of feel like that's going to come like mid-January though. So just make sure that when you ring the bell to set it to all notifications so that you don't miss out on any of these like roundup videos that are gonna come up on my channel. But alright, I don't want to make the intro too long because I've got a pile of eyeshadow palettes here, okay? And I feel like I just want to start off with like the biggest ones. I've got two that are a little bit larger. This eyeshadow palette immediately popped into my mind. This was also released this year and it's quite affordable. And at the moment they've got 25% off. So I'm going to link that in my description because I know I can link this palette as well. Oh my gosh, this is actually a really stunning palette and I really enjoy this one. So this one is by Beauty Bay and it's the Smoky Eyeshadow Palette. I really do adore cool tones. I love like smoky looks. Oh my gosh. You can really get me with something like this. There is also a smaller version to this large palette. This has 42 shades. So if you don't vibe with this one, there's also like a smaller, more like curated version of this. But if you really seriously want almost all 50 shades, I know there are 42 shades, but if you want the 42 shades of gray, this is your best bet to get like literally every variation without being too repetitive. I feel like this palette is honestly, it's so pretty. Like you've got all of these beautiful taupey undertones. You also have like more blue, silvery undertones. You also have some that are leaning a little bit more like olive undertone and then some purple undertones. I think Beauty Bay really made an effort to go wild and this formula is really, really lovely. If you ever try Beauty Bay, you know that they've got a solid formula and that they are not gonna break your bank. This is quite an affordable palette considering how many shades you're gonna get. I really like the variety in these shimmers and some of these shimmers are so sparkly. Honestly, I feel like this is one of the best quality palettes that Beauty Bay has ever released. And I also really like the fact that these shades really go from light to deep. We have a great ratio when it comes to the contrast in this palette. But mind you, all of these are going to pull a shade of gray. I mean, most of them, especially the matte shades. Some of these shimmers do definitely have a different undertone here. But I think if you just want one palette that delivers everything in terms of great tones that you ever dreamt about, this might be the palette, you know. Beauty Bay is also a brand from the UK, and I just really, really have appreciated this palette so much this year. This was really pretty. Okay, so let's move on to the next palette that I pulled out. This palette is actually by an indie brand. I think this came out last year. This is not solely a gray sort of like color story though. So this one is by Bella Beauty Bar, and this is the Smoky Glam Eyeshadow palette. Of course I had to include this. I mean, if a palette is already called Smoky Glam, oh my gosh, this is honestly such a pretty, pretty palette. This is really stunning. Like, I really adore this color story. Now, you really have to love a good mauvey shade. You got to love some pinks. The upper half of this palette is definitely all of those, like, more spring colors, you know. And then the bottom half of the palette really delivers on, you know, the gray tones, the more smoky tones, but we also have some very interesting undertones here. There are quite a lot of like grays that have a little bit of that olive undertone here, but I just love the shimmer formula. I love the mattes. I have to say this is such a stunning palette. I really like this. This is a palette, I think I ranked this also pretty high last year. I can only imagine because I really did enjoy this. Now, honestly, I'm not sure if this is still available or if this is sold out. Sometimes these palettes can sell out very, very quickly, and then it takes a while for them to be restocked. But if you do have this palette, maybe pull it out for New Year's Eve, because there are definitely some stunning shades in here, and you can create like a really pretty, unique look with this. They are some of Bella Beauty Bar's best mattes. The shimmers have all kind of like a different formula. Some of them are a little bit more wet to the touch, like this one or this one. But these shimmers right here are more on the smooth side, and I actually do prefer that. They are very impactful, very shiny, very sparkly nonetheless, and I just think this is such a well curation of like tones. It is just such a fun palette, so I really wanted to include this one here. And yeah, so this is really, really pretty. So let's move on to some other palettes. I mean, these were the two largest palettes that I pulled out. So maybe let's continue with two brands that you can find at Sephora. And also these two brands, I can link them in my description box down below. So let's talk about this newer palette. Oh my gosh, I absolutely adore this. And I think this could also make such a stunning palette for New Year's Eve. You know, this is just it's so glam. And this is by Makeup by Mario, and this is the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight. Oh my gosh, this palette really surprised me. Like, I did not expect to love this as much as I actually do. This is truly a stunning, cool-toned eyeshadow palette. This is such a beautiful formula. Like, these shimmers are more on the thinner side. So if you are looking for something very impactful in terms of shimmery sparkle, but you want something that is a little bit thinner, I think you're gonna love this. And I just love the curation of the color story here. I think you can do so many different looks with this. You can use this, you know, for an everyday look, but you can also use this, you know, for a really nice smoky glam look. In particular, I do adore these very pale golden shades right here. They are so incredible and they suit me very well. I seriously don't feel like warm golden shades look flattering on me personally. So if you have also more of a neutral leaning cool undertone, these golden shades are just mesmerizing. The mattes are a little bit more on the buildable side, but I felt like these mattes were an elevated formula to his all matte eyeshadow palette that I've tried earlier this year that I did not love that much, to be honest. I felt like these mattes, I could work with them so much better. They are more on the buttery, creamy side, and they build up so lovely. So I'm a huge fan of this eyeshadow palette, and I think, you know, if you want a really pretty look and you are not vibing with any multi-chromes, or you just want something very sophisticated, this is such a great one. Super stunning. I mean, the next palette is also something that I feel like it's gonna give you that very vampy, like smoky look. This was a holiday release from last year, but I think it's also still being sold at Sephora. And this is the Pretty Grunge eyeshadow palette by Huda Beauty. I mean, I had to include this palette. This palette is perfect for New Year's Eve. This is just a color story that you can wear like on an everyday basis, but you can really just like smoke this one up, like really make this deep and glam. I just think the color story is so versatile. On one side you have like these more mauvey shades, on the other side you have these more like neutral tones, but overall you can create such pretty smoky glam looks. And these shimmers, oh my gosh, like so amazing. Some of these have just such like crazy payoff, and there's definitely some silver in here. This is just a palette that you may not really think about when it comes to New Year's Eve, but if you have this in your collection, you can definitely pull this out and create some breathtaking looks with this. And the quality is just really amazing. I really do enjoy this formula so much. It's such a pretty palette. And if it's still available at Sephora, I'm going to be linking it in case you're interested, because this is a palette that, you know, just gives you so many different outcomes. All right, so let's move on to the next eyeshadow palette, and this is a cool toned lover's dream. I had to include this one. This is also by an indie brand, and this is the Glamlight Ghost Face Lives eyeshadow palette. I mean, this was a Halloween release, but let's be real, this color story is so perfect if you want something just a little bit more special from a cool toned palette. And if you are a lover of like glam looks, oh my gosh, you would love this, because again, this palette is super versatile. You know, you also have this stunning like duochrome right here, and this also is a duochrome, but then you also have this beautiful taupey sparkly shade, this brown, stunning. You also have this sequin black shade right here. You've got a really deep sort of shimmer right here, another gray there, and then this silver. The silver is so beautiful. This quality is so amazing. I really did enjoy this palette so much. I've created some stunning looks with this, and I love reaching for this one. So this is one of my favorite palettes that Glamlight has ever done. Again, I'm a sucker for cool tones. Really, seriously, I am. And I think this is just delivering with the undertones, with the variety, and it's just such a great quality palette. So let's move on to the next one, and this is also by a UK-based indie brand, and this is by Kaima Cosmetics, and this is the Bougie Boudoir eyeshadow palette. So I'm not sure if this is still available. Maybe it is. This was supposed to be a limited edition, so I'm not sure if it's still there, but in case it is, and you want something more neutral, you don't love a lot of cool toned mattes, but you really want some very sparkly shimmers, this might be your eyeshadow palette. And you can definitely create some stunning looks for New Year's Eve with this palette. So in terms of the mattes, this does not pull all too cool toned. You can create some stunning, like more neutrally mauvey, pinky leaning looks with the mattes, but the shimmers, for me personally, they are almost too sparkly. If I'm completely honest with you, they have a lot of shimmer. They are very intense. But for an occasion like New Year's Eve, oh my gosh, this would be the occasion that I would want to reach for a palette like this. There are definitely some different formulas when it comes to the shimmers. We have some of them that are a little bit chunky. I'm not the biggest fan of this shade Star, although it looks so pretty. But then there are these really pretty, intensely sparkly, more smooth shadows in here as well. I mean, I love this shade Fame. And then the shade Charisma, oh my gosh. This is almost like a diamond dream. It's so pretty. And these undertones, when it comes to the shimmer shades, oh my gosh, aren't they just perfect for New Year's Eve? So pretty. I mean, these shimmers are truly blinding. They are so radiant. You're gonna be seen from outer space when you wear these. So let's move on to another indie brand. And also this indie brand is definitely known for their impactful shimmer formula. And of course, I had to include this palette, right? This is so New Year's Eve to me, and it's just such a pretty palette. This is the Amy Loves eyeshadow palette by Adapt Cosmetics. This was a collaboration with Amy Loves Makeup. Look at this packaging. Just look at that. I mean, oh my gosh, it's so pretty, and you won't get any like glitter on your hand when you touch it. This is just such a stunning like outer packaging. Wow. And this really does represent the inside of this palette so well. Some of these shimmers definitely are multi-chromes. Others are even like holographic shades. So you have like holographic shimmer reflects in them. Others are just really intense metallics. There is a lot of variety when it comes to this palette. We also have 5 matte shades. Usually that's how Adapt Cosmetics does build up their palettes. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of these matte shades. I don't really love Adapt's matte formula. And I don't love the fact that Amy decided to only include like these mid-tones to deep tones. I seriously wish there could have been like a beige or a white, something where we can just blend these shades out. I know that she explained that, you know, with this kind of formula, you can, like, you don't have to build it up to a full saturation. So you would get a little bit of a lighter tone. I slightly disagree with that because I do want my eyeshadows to build up to a full opaque sort of like finish. And that's just not how I do eyeshadow. So a little bit of a bummer that these cool tones, they could have been curated so much better. But when it comes to the contrast going from light to deep. So I think it's a little bit of a shame, right? So, but the rest, these shimmers are stunning. So in case you aren't bothered by this more mid-tone to deep matte sort of color story, it's an amazing palette, you know. If you are looking at this and you just want these shimmers, oh my gosh, go for it. Because these shimmers are out of this world beautiful. And to be honest, any Adapt eyeshadow palette will do. For New Year's Eve, like all of their shimmers are so spectacular. So it's just really up to you what you're vibing with, you know. But in the more traditional sense, I pulled this one out by Adapt because this just kind of gives me more like the smokiness, you know, the glam sort of side in terms of shades, in terms of what I associate with that sort of style. Really stunning palette. And the next palette, oh my gosh, this is actually a newer palette. I still have to post my looks with this, but oh my gosh, you guys, this is, when we are talking about beaming from outer space, this palette just literally blew my socks off. This is so stunning. And this is the brand new eyeshadow palette by Gloss Gods. And this is the Molten Metals palette. I know ColourPop actually also has an eyeshadow palette that is called Precious Metals. This is the condensed version of that. You can't compare both of these formulas. You cannot, because this is so elevated. This is, I would say, the most intense shimmer I've ever tried. We do have 5 mattes and then 5 intense beaming shimmers. Like, I cannot explain this shimmer formula to you. This is so smooth, and the shimmer particles in this are so dense. Like, they are so densely pigmented. Like, oh my gosh, this looks incredible on your eyes. If you just look at the mattes, you do have somewhat of like a neutral color story right there. But these shimmers will just steal the show. They are going to steal the show. You can definitely create somewhat of a cohesive look because at the end of the day, you still have a light shade and you have 2 midtones and then 2 deeper shades. I honestly feel like this might be a palette that some people may sleep on because they might see this online and they are just like, whatever, you know, it's just a neutral palette. No. This is so incredible. Like, I really have to say, if you are a fan of very impactful shimmers, look into Gloss Gods because they are delivering on the sparkle, on the payoff, on the shine, the reflect. I mean, these are seriously like true metals. Like, these are just incredible. And this shade is so pretty. Such a beautiful pale golden shade. And although I'm not the biggest fan of this copper shade, right? It's still so stunning. It's one of the prettiest like orangey tones that I've ever seen. And this bronze shade, honestly, do you know I have this Patrick Tar eyeshadow duo called Still at the Club? Forget about that. Just forget about that, because you have an entire eyeshadow palette for the price of one duo, right? And you have a better shade. This bronze shade, I was like, this is Patrick Tar on steroids. This is just literally one of the most beautiful taupey browns I've ever seen. This just beats everything. So let's actually move on to maybe the eyeshadow palette that I decided to wear for today's look. This is a palette that I think is absolutely versatile, one of my favorite formulas in the world. And this is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics All Done Up eyeshadow palette. This palette by Blend Bunny, oh my gosh, do I love this. I had this for a while now, and I don't think I've ever like posted any looks with this, but I've created so many looks with this. I absolutely adore this palette. I mean, this color story. This is not just a palette that you can pull out for New Year's Eve, but obviously you can achieve a very like glam, sort of like smoky eyeshadow look, like the one that I created for today. But you can also go so many different directions with this. I mean, this is just such an interesting color story. So much variety in one palette. We also have gold. We also have this beautiful pearly pink shade here. And although this is a smaller palette by them, I feel like this is one of the best curated palettes I've ever worked with. These matte shades are so elevated. I don't know what it is. Just Blend Bunny at its best. The shimmers are so stunning, so smooth, so sparkly. And I mean, I used this shimmer, such a beautiful blue toned silver, and then this shade Shine. I mean, I put this on top of it, and it just gives me such a beautiful frosty sort of look. But you could go such a different way with this. You can go so many different ways with this. Honestly, I had no idea how versatile this palette was when I got it, but once I started using this, loved it. And also, if you are a beginner in makeup, I mean, this palette is just so nicely laid out. It's so easy. You know, if you are not inspired, if you don't really know what to do, you can just do one row. But you can, of course, just, you know, go a little bit bazonkers. That's what I love to do. I love to just, you know, shuffle this around and just use different combinations. This palette just really delivers. And I was like, you know what? I want to use this one today because this one always makes me happy. So this is just a palette that I truly adore. Should we actually go off track a little bit and move on to some more fun, colorful eyeshadow palettes? You may not think about these, you know, for New Year's Eve, but if you have them, maybe pull these out because they have such potential. They really have potential. So the very first one that I immediately thought of was the Unearthly Cosmetics Resurgence eyeshadow palette. This is a collaboration with Heather Austin. And oh my gosh, this is just such a pretty palette. And this color story is just very unique. I want to wear this if I go out. I want to wear this for a special occasion. This is so interesting. It's a very interesting color story. I mean, we have just some popping matte shades, but what I love and really adore about this palette are these shimmers. The shifts of these duochromes, the shift of these multichromes. This white satin is the best inner corner shade ever. I continuously reach for this to just, you know, make my inner corner pop. It is incredible. And then I absolutely adore a shade like Creation, like this brown red base with this like silvery blue sparkle. Oh my gosh, is this beautiful. And then the shade Transformation, stunning. And maybe if I would not want to use these more popping matte shades, I would always want to reach for these shimmers. These shimmers are on a whole different level. They are so sparkly, they are so beautiful. They will look great for any occasion. Sometimes this is more of a companion palette to me because I love reaching, you know, for these shimmers in particular, especially this shade Life. Oh my gosh. Stop. This is just, I reach for this so much. If you have this, then forget about it. I'm not sure if this is still available. If it's still available, oh my gosh, what are you waiting for? It's so amazing. Honestly, this is such a unique piece of makeup and I just love it and I think it's so much fun. The next eyeshadow palette I know is discontinued. It's discontinued. I don't know if you have it or not, but if you have it, you may want to look into this for New Year's Eve as well. So this one is by Glaminatrix Cosmetics and it's the Into the Night eyeshadow palette. This is such a fun color story. This is still their older formula. Ever since this came out, they have reformulated their formula, and although their shimmers are still spectacular, I feel like their mattes have definitely improved since, you know, they came out with a newer formula. But oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Look at the silver shade. The silver shade After Dark. This is so beaming. Such beautiful, beautiful tones, such an interesting color story. This matte formula is still good, but the new one is a little bit better, okay? But oh my gosh, just some of these shimmers are just out of this world. Like this silver, this beautiful blue sort of shade that shifts to purple. And then this shade is called On the Rocks. Oh my gosh. This is just a shade that I would reach for all the time. If I want to just like go out, if I'm invited somewhere, this is the perfect shade to wear. And the color combinations that you can do with this is stunning. Very, very different from some of the other palettes I have in this video. It's a little bit more daring, and the next one is also not available on their official website anymore, but it's still available on Monolith. So if you want to, I can link it down below. It's not going to be an affiliate link, but I can just link the palette, because this is also by Glaminatrix, and this is actually the palette that I wore last year for New Year's Eve. This is so beautiful. It's an all shimmer palette, but this is the Glaminatrix Fairy Lights eyeshadow palette. My gosh, do I love this little guy right here. This is their new formula, and the shimmers are out of this world. Out of this world. They are very comparable to the Gloss Gods formula. The ones that I just told you were so beaming and so intense and so impactful, but so sophisticated at the same time. This is one of my favorite shimmer formulas ever, and I feel like this is a great palette to have for any occasion. There is also one shade that has more of a holographic shift to it. I think it's the shade Cracker. Like whenever I put these on my lids, I'm just like wowed. Wowed by this palette. This is so beautiful. And for an all shimmer palette, if you are just a one and done shimmer girly, this is it. This is so worth it to me. Hopefully Glaminatrix can bring this one back. I do think that they brought this back at some point, and this continuously sells out, but for a good reason, because these shimmers are stunning. Stunning. And yeah, this is also one of these palettes that I always want to reach for if there's a special occasion. I immediately think about this palette because it's just that great. So let's talk about a couple more like smaller eyeshadow palettes. I feel like we are now transitioning into the smaller, more like curated palettes. You know, the six pans, the quads, all of those. And this is by Nomad Cosmetics. It's from their Air collection, and it's the Oslo Travel eyeshadow palette. This little collection came with a couple of different color stories. I do have this one, and I have the original Air palette, but this was the one that spoke to me the most, of course, because of the color story. Again, I love grays. I love cool tones, and this is such a beautiful, very simple but very well curated, cool, neutral eyeshadow palette. Of course, you're going to be limited with a color story like this. Nonetheless, the looks that I create with this are stunning. This is not exactly the shimmer formula that Nomad does when Nomad is at its best, okay? But these are metallics. These are very smooth metallics, but yet they are still very impactful. So if you don't like all of these sparkly, glittery shades, I wanted to give you an option with this palette because I feel like these shimmers are a little bit more subdued, but they don't have as much sparkle to them. So if you do prefer a formula like that, maybe look into Nomad Cosmetics into this palette. It's beautiful. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one, I have two more quads. So one of the quads that I immediately pulled out of my collection was this one by Kaleidos, and this is the Black Jasmine eyeshadow palette. Oh my gosh, these palettes by Kaleidos. I love them. Literally, if you want a traditional sort of smoky eyeshadow quad, oh my gosh, you can't go wrong with this. I will say though, the silver does pull a little bit more on the blue side, and the darker mid-tone shade also pulls a little bit more blue toned on me. But in general, this is not like a true gray. This is more of like a blue-based gray, which I don't mind. I also like that. But I just wanted to have mentioned that. Also use a glitter glue when you are using this shimmer just to avoid fallout. But oh my gosh, do I love this formula. I really hope Kaleidos is gonna make a comeback. I've actually been sent some PR by Kaleidos. This I purchased myself, and I don't know if you guys are actually interested in me reviewing like a full face of Kaleidos. Let me know if that is something that interests you, because I know that this brand is a little bit on hold with new releases, which is not a biggie for me personally, because they really come out with quality, and that means so much more to me than just push out quantity. But I feel like also in this day and age, they are slipping a little bit under the radar, which I don't really love because this brand is phenomenal. I really wanted to have mentioned this because this is literally the quintessence of what I would define as a smoky palette. The next quad is actually a more luxurious quad, but I still wanted to have mentioned this one. I mean, it's quite pricey. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat this whatsoever. So this is by Victoria Beckham Beauty, and this is the Smoky Eye Brick in the colorway Tuxedo. My gosh, I love these little palettes. First off, they fit into the palm of my small hands and they are so travel friendly. This came with me when I traveled, and I always bring this with me when I'm traveling. I bring her quads because the packaging is so sturdy, but yet it's just not taking up any space. And this color story here is just everything that you want to create like a beautiful smoky look. I mean, it is basic, okay, but the quality and the formula of her eyeshadows, I love them. These tones of gray, they're not going to be pulling blue. So these are true grays. So if you're struggling with that, if you don't like a gray that pulls blue on your eyes, these won't do that. These are more like matte shades, although when you look at them, you may kind of think that they've got some sparkle in them, like a very light, almost like a coat of like shimmer. They don't. They don't have any shimmer to them at all when they go onto your eye. And also I can use this as a base and then use any other like sparkly shade on top of this. But I also have one sparkly shade by Victoria Beckham Beauty that I wanted to recommend for this video in particular. And that is actually her Lid Luster formula in the shade Mirror. Oh my gosh, she has so many stunning shades. I do have a lot of them. I don't have all of them. She recently actually also came out with a green shade. I did not pick that one up. But this one for New Year's Eve or for any party occasion, oh my gosh, you're gonna love this. I mean, if you like gold, there's a lot of like different golden shades that she has too. I'm gonna make an effort to find the footage where I actually swatched all of the shades that I've got by her on my arm. I also have a shade that got discontinued that is called Blonde. So mad that she does not have that anymore because it was fantastic. This shade Mirror though, it's more of like that blue toned silver shade again, but it's so stunning. I really love her formula. I always use a glitter glue when I use them because these are a little bit prone to fallout, but when they go onto the eye, oh my gosh, these are so amazing. Oh my gosh, this would match my top so well. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's such a beautiful formula. I also like Tea Rose a lot, but that is more like an everyday shade for me personally. And if you combine both of these, you do have a very traditional New Year's Eve smoky eyeshadow look. But my favorite liquid slash cream eyeshadow in the world, I think these are marketed as like liquid. So this is the Lisa Eldridge Liquid Lurex formula. This is the easiest liquid eyeshadow to work with, and it's the most beautiful one. It has so much like sparkly, like so much dimension. You can work with these so easy. You can use a brush, you can use your fingers. They are like foolproof. They are so quick and so amazing. But the two shades that I want to show you for today, the shade Lisa, this is just such a beautiful, like almost like gunmetal, blackened, deep, stunning shade with the most beautiful reflex to it. And if you want to top it off, I would say go with the shade Cressida, because these two together, you'll get a smoky look. This is going to be your best bet for New Year's Eve if you don't have the time to do an entire eyeshadow look with a palette. I mean, your eye look is just gonna be ready in like 3 minutes and people are gonna think that you spent hours on this look. That's how amazing these are. I really truly love them. And oh my gosh, you guys, those were all of the eyeshadow products that I wanted to talk about in today's video. That's it. I really hope I managed to give you a little bit of variety, a little bit of inspiration maybe. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for this year on YouTube. It really just meant the world to me. It really did mean the world to me. I always love reading your comments. You know, sometimes when I don't have the best day and I go over on my YouTube page and I read your amazing, sweet comments, it just cheers me up so much. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the support. I really, truly appreciate it. Like, I really do. So if you want to, drop me a comment down below. What is your favorite eyeshadow look for New Year's Eve, for a glam look, for a party look? Are there any palettes that you do own? let me know. You guys know I'm always looking forward reading your comments. And yeah, I really do wish you a happy new year, and hopefully I'm going to see you next year on here as well. Again, I'm going to be posting my best of, my worst of, my rankings in January. Those are going to be my upcoming videos. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and also ring the bell in order to get notified about my upcoming videos. And I shall be seeing you on here in 2025. So until next time, please do take care. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.